Handre Pollard versus Manie Libbok. Who is the right man for the Springboks at Flyhalf? Today we are going to try to answer that question. It's a query that divides opinion heavily. It's cult-like. If you say something nice about Manie on social media, Handre's supporters come after you with their pitchforks. If you say something good about Pollard on social media, Libbok's legion attacks you with everything they've got. And to help us discover the answer, I'm joined today by Harry Jones. Harry is a rugby fixer. He's a member of the 8-9 Combo podcast. He's also one half of the Lekker Rugby Pod. He also contributes articles to The Raw, and he sees things on a rugby field that a lot of us miss. I hope that covers everything, Harry.
That sounds good. Thanks for the intro, man. You make me sound a lot smarter than I am. I'm really just good at a few things. I can fight. I can hit a ball pretty far. I can make it go where I want it to go. And I can help you in times of trouble. And besides that, I can probably woo and close a deal. But no, rugby has always appealed to me because of what you just said. The complexities, the nuances, the fact that we can all watch the same game, the same player, and come away with very different view.
Absolutely. It's lovely to have you here today. So let's get straight into it then, right? Both Handre Pollard and Manie Libbok, they've had significant impacts on the Springboks, but they offer different things. So we'll start with Handre Pollard. In your opinion, what is his unique selling point?
Handre Pollard is the natural in the sense that when he was 14, 12, 15, 16, everything was apparent. And it's good to have players like that. Coming out of Somerset West and then getting into the top schools in Boland, Grant Como, Heineke Meyer said that he was someone that he was the most sure of ever. Not just from skill level, because he had that whole package, but more character. Someone who would be there for the duration. You know, we can go the distance. And here we are, 31-year-old Handre, although people always think he's 34 or 35. He's 31, which means that he and Manie would have been in high school at the same time. Not at the same high school, but at the same time, right? They're just 3 years apart. Here he is still churning out, sort of fixer jobs. He's a guy who comes around and when things get a bit out of hand, he can come in. He's sort of like one of those guys, if you were, I don't know, far away and you were kidnapped somewhere and he was the one that would jet in, you'd go, okay, it's all going to be okay because Handre is here. He'd find a way to get you out the window, safe into the plane and back. Handre plays 10 like a 12-10. In contrast, Manie's more a 10-15. So Handre will take the ball into contact. That is not always the case amongst flyhalves, or if they do, they get injured too much. So one of the things is, I will call it his robustness. And robustness is a thing, just like Morné Steyn had it. Someone who can take a tackle, make a tackle. He's not the best tackler in the team, but he can take it on. He's not going to become the target or an attraction to the opposing team. Pollard's on there, so we run right at him. No, that's not what you're going to do. He also can get over the gain line himself. 8 times he carried in Cape Town just now against the Wallabies. That's an important part of Tonyball, which we'll get into later in a more technical sense. But you have to be able to have a 10 now that can actually take the ball and go into contact from behind the pod, running a good cleaner line so that the cleaners know where you're going to go. The unpredictability of some fly-offs that's not Handre Pollard's game, but unpredictability can also hurt you when none of your guys around you know what you're going to do. So it's really nice to have the no-look kick pass in your pocket, but also sometimes it's good to have a guy who will say, for the next 10 minutes, what we're going to do is grind. And part of that grind is going to be me. My shorts are also going to be black and brown. Handre Pollard, I define him as your sharp edge fly-off, your playmaker who will get it done in the harshest of environments. A game is not a game is not a game. A cap is not a cap is not a cap. There's different kinds of caps. There's levels to this shit. It's like tiramisu. So the 9 lives, I call it, of Rugby World Cup knockout king Handre Pollard is that he's had 9 knockout matches. He's lost 1 as a 20-year-old against Dan Carter, against the All Blacks in 2015 in pouring rain, with 1 reverse croc roll by Victor Matfield Cole, or he would have been a victor there as well. So the rest of it, he's busted 12 tackles, 6 line breaks. He makes meters, 217 meters in the carry in his knockout career at the Rugby World Cup. That's definitional. That is not what everyone can get from their 10. Not Bigger, not Sexton, not even really Farrell, who's the closest like for like, has quite the same pedigree knockout. So I call him a knockout guy. He's not for everyone. He's not when you want to run up a score sometimes. But he's also not a guy who's going to let the other team run up too much of a score most of the time. So that's Handre. He also has a tremendous following on social media. He does bring people to the game globally. He's a good ambassador. He's a vice captain. He's a person who can, in the storm, not just sit there and pray, but he will row to the shore and get you there. So, yeah, he's a fantastic asset for South African rugby.
I think so too. Harry, I would even go so far as to say, because I know my viewers are going to want me to give a bit of an opinion here as well. When I think of Handre Pollard, I think of words like cool, calm, common sense. Similarly, when I think of Manie Libbok, I think attack, flair, maverick. I'm going to ask you now, in the same vein that I asked you about Pollard, what is it about Manie that is so special?
Yeah, and by the way, it's a false conflict, right? Handre and Manie are good friends. The drive from the Garden Route from Somerset West to Otanik was one of the most pleasant experiences you have in your life. And I almost think of it as being, these are two guys from similar regions, have a lot more in common than they do in difference. And they love it. In most sports where you have unlimited substitution in and out, you'd probably put the two of them, you'd probably have the two of them almost interchangeable, like overs in cricket. You'd have the spinner and the paceman. And I think Pollard's the paceman, just bring it and kind of where it is, but it's hard to stop it. And then you have Manie just getting you all tied up. Manie Libbok is a guy, obviously hasn't had the same kind of contracts as Pollard's, right? Pollard's been Bulls, Montpellier, and then Leicester, and sort of a box stalwart. Over 80 caps, and Manie's still at right over 20. He's been Bulls, Sharks, and then this fantastic run of the Stormers when he won the United Rugby Championship. So now he's pushing on about 60 caps in the ERC, as a lot of people call it. Stormers 2021, 2022, magic, found just magic in a bottle. But Manie brings an ability to stun you, to shock you, to make that ooh and that ah come out of you, which is cool. When the whole stadium is doing that sound, nothing like it. Whether it was at the Old Newlands or the DHL in Cape Town or anywhere Manie goes, he's going to elicit that kind of reverence. And I'll just put it this way. If you're the kind of person, and I think this is increasingly how people are, a very high percentage of people consume sport by highlights. Clips, highlights, they lie. They say they watch the whole game. They don't. If you're just going to watch highlights, Manie's your man. And I like highlights, let me tell you. It is key to the growth of the game. It is one of the things that allows the casual fan not to get bogged down in the things that you and I might love, the scrums, the kick chase, the finer nuances of a line-out. They kind of like to see the breaks and the skip passes and the outside of the boot, around the shoulder, boulder holder, closed eye, through your legs, offload. That is a highlight. Manie's going to be top 3 in the world. Like, you're talking Finn Russell, you're talking maybe Sam Prendergast from Ireland. By the way, there's an analog there. The way Munster fans in Ireland talk about Jack Crowley, who would be the Pollard in this story, and then Sam for Leinster. So Sam has all the bells and whistles, but he's accused sometimes of attention wandering. The Manie Libbok has this one flaw, which is sometimes in the middle of a match, he can be too quiet, not seize the floor and tell everyone, hey, come around me now. Here's where we are. Here's where we have to get. Next 10 minutes, here's what we're going to do. Next 2 minutes, here's where I want to be. And I think that's the flaw. It showed up in his kicking routine in that he had a tendency to wait too long in the shot clock and to get in his head. Handre, like a lot of really good goal kickers, have a very simple setup like a golfer. Don't let the lactic acid to get into your veins. Don't hesitate too much. So I kind of think of Manie, and I watched him in Cape Town. He was just 5 rows in front of me. watching the Wallabies, and he was sort of commentating. He and Willie were talking to each other, strandhond to strandhond, and they were talking about, what could it be? You could just tell they were analyzing it from an attack sense. Manie would be your full-blown attack. If you could play rugby like the NFL and you had a full-time offense quarterback team, you'd kind of put Manie on there, almost as an H-back, I think they call it, where you have quick snaps and you just go and trick plays. Whereas Handre is your grind guy, your ability, your tournament ender. That's the basic difference.
Yeah, I'm on board with all of that, and we can talk a little bit more about goal kicking as well in detail. For example, I saw a stat, and now it kind of escapes me, but I think it was something like in the last 5 years, Pollard's goal kicking success rate is something around 88%, which is phenomenal at international level. I always say that you want your kicker to be 80% minimum, and if we're honest, Manie Libbok has not always been at that level. In fact, at times, he's probably been more closer to the sort of 60, even 50% range. However, Manie's goal kicking in 2025 has been significantly better, and I've noticed a little bit of a change in his technique, and it almost reminds me, not that he's doing the same thing, but there's a similarity there. You recall when Percy Montgomery was a little bit of an erratic goal kicker in the 90s, he went away, worked on it, came back with a different technique, and he turned into one of the most deadly goal kickers in the world. Could you see a parallel there as well?
You're 100% right on the Percy analogy. Percy went to a 1-2 step, almost like Ernie Els 1-2, one swing, and it was very rhythmic, and whatever he sacrificed in distance, he gained in accuracy. Manie has shortened his lead into the ball. The ball's the target now, not the poles. He looks up at the poles far less. He gives himself less time to look at the poles and to imagine missing. He's always been a good ball striker. He kicks the ball really high like Sacha. And so there's more margin for error when you go that high, almost like a golfer on a high arc. So, if he could get a little bit more of a 2-iron going instead of a 5-iron, 7-iron, Handre sort of hits a 2 or 3-iron all the time at kind of low flight. You kind of know it's over before it even gets there. You can turn around, pick up the tee and run away. Manie has to watch because you never know. You could have that final fade that hit the poles or something. Just in general, by the way, Handre, you're not wrong about Handre being an incredible goal kicker. He's 16 for 16 this year, and his perfect record at the DHL pushed him up to 89% for the year. But it's phenomenal. For that 5-year period, 100% this year, he's phenomenal. But Manie's not nearly as bad a goal kicker as he's portrayed to be. It's more about the moments, whether it's against Argentina or some critical times when you really needed that early penalty goal. He's not as bad as people portray, nor is Handre as bad a playmaker and creator as he's portrayed to be, even though Manie is superb. So I think both of them suffer a little bit from exaggeration of the differences. But Manie for sure has changed some of that. He strikes me as someone that if he makes the first kick, then he kind of makes a lot. And if he misses the first one or it's shaky, we're in for a long Saturday. So, I think there's some mental aspects there that are correctable, just like I think Handre has things to work on. He could sometimes fade too far into the pocket when he should be up on the line. And so both of them have those work-ons, and both of them would fully admit that, by the way. I think the supporters get very twisted. They imagine that what they're saying is novel and unique, and that the guys don't actually, like Handre and Manie, don't know that they have things to work on. They absolutely have things that they want to work on. No top sportsman I know is content. They all want to have one more thing. It's like Ibn Etzebeth learning to be a kick chaser late in his career. They just want to add a skill. So, and Manie's a deeply dedicated student of the game. He wants to get better, and by all accounts, from what I can see, at least the early results are that this kick change is working for him. So we should all applaud that. We should want it. I think there's an element in some of this debate, by the way, Peter, that is ill-spirited and in bad faith. I smell and suspect some people want the guy to fail, the guy they don't like. Not me. I want them both to prosper, and it's such a good problem to have. And you add Sacha in the mix there. It's just such a good problem to have three different types of styles on horses for courses. And because 15 tests a year is a hell of a lot of tests, and you need depth, and depth is king.
I fully agree with you, Harry. And as you say, both players bring something unique to the table. And it's not as if the other player's strength is a glaring weakness in the other player's game overall. Having said that, right, and I know you'll know what I'm talking about here. Historically, the Springboks are what I would call a 3-6-9 team. And you would say that historically the All Blacks are a 7-14-21 team. But we are seeing in this current Rassie Erasmus era that the Springboks are trying to change from being that stereotypical 3-6-9 team. And you would say that if we're a 3-6-9 team, then Handre Pollard is your 10. But if you're a 7-14-21 team, then Manie Libbok is your man. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, and so now we're getting into some complexity, right? If you're going to try to be a 7-14-21 team, you're also going to concede 7-14 a lot, because our game is defined by the idea that lost, L-O-S-T, ball is the best opportunity for the other team to score as well. So you open yourself up when you go to the races, that it can go to the races against you. The lack of scramble defense, the lack of cover, the ability to be a counter strike of teams that have Max Jorgensen or Corey Toole, just sheer speed. You are necessarily telling the other side that you're going to give up some points. It's a bit like in tennis. If you go for your first serve full out, and your second serve, you also go about 98%, you're going for the ace on your second serve, you're going to have more double faults, but you're also going to have more aces. So it's calibrating what you want. Tony Brown, brought in to be attack coach, has opened up a way of playing where you have your open sider stationed in the left tram, your blind sider, Peter Stiff du Toit, on the right side, which means the entire middle is being manned by a quick 8, Kwacha, and someone like him instead of maybe a big giant, carrier 8. And so there's so many holes that can be opened if your pods running into contact don't have good clean regimen and good cleaning protocols inside and outside. Manie, sometimes when he's hiding behind the pod and running like a 10 has to do nowadays, is so unpredictable with his step, with his ratio of go, run, kick, pass. It's difficult for people to know where they're going. So that can lend itself to crossing, obstruction, offsides, cleaning beyond the ruck, getting pinged, or having the ball spill, and then they're off to the races other way around. Handre would be more your guy who grew up with the idea of the quarterback, game manager, controller, who would try to find kick space and put the ball where it's supposed to be for his forwards to always go forward. Just, hey, you called forwards, let's make you go forwards. The good thing is Tonyball is not either one of those things. It's both. Tony is obsessed with kick space. He wants his 10s to find kick space. He was very irritated at Ellis Park up 22-0 when the Boks went away from finding that kick space, which was giving the Wallabies all kinds of fits. And if it had been continued to be applied, along with other things, obviously a sputtering line out, which is not Tony's issue, there could have been a 45-10 kind of hiding on offer. So it was the mental space there. For Handre, sometimes he lapses back into an older style when he kind of needs to be facilitating, sort of promoting these forward pods, chips, to each other, forward to forward, offloads from forward to forward. And a lot of those calls come from the fly-off. So Handre has an incredible role there in calling for it. But if he says he wants the ball, it's going to come to him. He's a respected leader on the team. So that's sort of Handre's problem. Manie's problem is sometimes he can fall in love with being in that mix and disappear into those pods. And there's not a clear, I'm the general, here I am Napoleon on a hill with the cannons. It's sort of like he's inside the mix and his voice is not always heard. Pitch side, you can literally hear the lack of it. And whereas with Handre, he's not a talker all the time. He's not as yappy as a bigger, but you know where he is and you know what he's saying to do. And if he makes a mistake on the call, he will own up to it. By the way, I find that to be true of both those men. They're very good at putting their hand up when they've made an error. So hopefully that makes a bit more sense on what Tonyball is supposed to look like. We haven't seen Tonyball. We've seen it for 10, 15 minutes at a time, but not over a whole 80.
And I think the other thing that people are quick to forget is that Tonyball doesn't automatically equal touch rugby, right?
No, it's brutal. Tonyball requires Manie to go into contact more. He needs to be more of a runner. Handre's got that part of the brief exactly right. He gets that memo. The cleaning has to be ferocious for it to continue beyond fourth phase, fifth phase. If you're getting about four meters per carry, you can do the maths. You're not going to get from R22 to their try line with that many carries unless you're behind by 6 and it's 1 minute to go. You have to try. But in general, you're not going to construct it. It's going to have kicking in it. In fact, it's going to have kick upon kick. There was a moment where we won a regain contestable around the midfield, and then we went sideline again, the opposite side, wide kick. We needed to kick it over the top and let it roll into coffin corner. Tonyball fully anticipates that the best ball is where you give it to your opponent in the worst possible spot. You're like, almost, I'll give the Wallabies 90% possession, but it all has to be within 5 meters of their try line. I'll take that. Give me that, because I'm going to win by a lot. So Tonyball is pragmatic. Tonyball's more about how you build these forward pods where you have 4 players, 5 players, sometimes 3. You have someone in the middle, and you're trying to have multi-sided rucks, right? So Tonyball anticipates that phase 3, you get your big hard carrier, your number 12 or your number 8 to start a ruck right in the middle of the pitch, like right in the middle. So there's no blind side, there's no open side, there's no formation. The defense is staggered. The defense doesn't know whether it has to fold or hold or go the other way around. And so then you have two-sided attack. That's where Manie can really kill you too, by the way. It's also where Handre can kill you. And like most teams, if you have a good 10 who's on the ball, you might have a 15 come in, a Sacha, a Willemse, a Fassi. So, I do think that there's a way to play this that people recognize as classic Bok DNA, in your face, smash mouth rugby, no quarter ask, no quarter given, no mercy. We will roll over you whilst still generating the points you need in a rugby that's changing. It's clear they don't want to penalize scrums as much. It's clear that they don't want to have stop-start. It's clear that the so-called doctrine of ball and play is ascendant. It's clear that when you're number 1 in the world and you're trying to go back to back to back, everyone's chasing you and they're going to change laws accordingly. So Rossi's just sort of saying, let me have a hedge. Let me have plan C in case A and B don't work one night. What if we do have to score 45 in a knockout match to win? Okay. That happened against the French in the quarterfinal where we had to score like mad. So we had that. I think Rossi's looking forward and saying we might have to do that again on a quick pitch in Australia in 2027.
Exactly. And just a word on the kicking, if I can just give a bit of an opinion here. Again, like we were saying, with the Springboks historically, stereotypically being a 3-6-9 side and the All Blacks 7-14-21, the perception is that we are more of a kicking side and they are not. But kicking is also attacking, and I think that a lot of people lose sight of that. But I think we're moving slightly off topic, so I want to bring it back, especially to what you were saying there about having a guy like Kwagga playing at 8 and the role that then sort of translates to what Handre or Manie is doing at the same time, I beg your pardon. Do you also think, though, that it depends on who they have at 9 and 12 and that has a big bearing on things?
Yeah, for sure. I think I would actually expand that to add the 15 into that list, and then I think we've got it. The 9, 10, 12, 15 spine, we'll call it, of the back line, defines pretty much everything else that the outside backs do. And it also sort of decides where the team's going to play, not how, but where. The how, we have to look at the coaches for some of the game planning, and they have to take credit and blame for that. To some extent, as a player, you have to do the game plan that's been given to you, or you're not going to get picked. But I do think the fact that at 9, 10, and 15, the Boks have had this sort of weird anomalous idea that there's no incumbency, there's not a strict depth chart that you can identify, encouraging the idea that there really isn't a guy who has the jersey and then has an understudy and then an understudy behind that, so that you had Grant Williams, you had Reinach, you had Warner van den Berg, maybe Faf de Klerk also in the wings, and then you have the Handre Manie Sacha show, and then you have the Fassi Willemse Willie show. And all of them are so different that if you start pairing them together, it's a bit like a Rubik's Cube. Like, what are you going to get? There's a Williams Pollard, Fassi combination, incredibly different from a Morne, Manie, Willemse? And the answer is yes. That's the one area on the pitch where those identities really change. Whereas a blindsider is a blindsider and does blindsider things. He's a bouncer. Your six is a bank robber. Your prop is, a bull mastiff. So it doesn't change much what you do. The fact that you have so much space around the ruck now as a 9, so you can be a sniper again because they protect them again. The fact that you have these pods running in front of Flyhalfs instead of, you are the guy just pivoting. And at 15, if you get, well, by the way, you're right, All Blacks kick a lot. All Blacks kicked 47 times, several times in the last few seasons. Your 15 is going to get the ball a lot of times, and the decision whether to just kick it back, up and under, or take a run is crucial. It's literally how the Wallabies won at Ellis Park, is just picking the right moments to run it back. So we're in this kind of weird warp mode where Rassie and Co. doesn't want to declare what is the 9, the 10, and the 15, and then have a second team and a third team. But I'm going to tell you this, so this is my thinking and my gut, is we're probably going to have to get there sooner or later, and it's going to have to just be okay that Handre is the starting 10 for the games that matter the most in the most crucial knockouts, and it's going to have to be okay that we have that sort of platooning system at 10. Or I think it's going to be very difficult for the 12, whoever the 12 is, and for whoever the 15 is, to play off of 10. Right now, I haven't seen the evidence demonstrated by massive contracts by the clubs from France and other places. I have not seen that Manie Libbok is seen as the man who can drive you to a cup in a tournament, in a league. And I think sometimes money does talk there. I also haven't seen him assume the reins enough at this age with this many chances to be that, field general. Hope I'm wrong. Maybe I will be wrong. If I am, I'll be happy wrong to see Manie do everything people say he can do. But for me, the ability to know what's going on in the heat of the battle, articulate that to his teammates, make them do what he wants, and then lead in that way is the part that's lacking. I remember seeing Sir Nick Faldo talk about the difference between a top pro golfer and a really good scratch amateur. And what he said was, we can hit all the same shots. You can probably hit it farther than we can. What makes us pros is that in the middle of a round, when our swing has gone very wrong, we know how to fix it. We can actually feel our swing at the top and the bottom and know, it's my left knee. And so I think Handre has that ability in a game to diagnose what he did wrong, not even talking about what other people did wrong, and also where we should play, and just gather the guys under the sticks even and say, for the next 10 minutes, I don't care if we never score, but they're never going to score either. Let's just get this thing calmed down, and then let's build back into the match. So that's why he has 80 caps.
Indeed. All right, Harry, you knew this question was coming. We're playing the All Blacks in just over a week's time at Fortress Eden Park. They haven't lost there since 1994. It's been 50 tests since they last tasted defeat there. As it turns out, we were actually the ones who started that streak because it was an 18-all draw in 1994. That is match 1 in this All Blacks hot streak. So I think it would be very appropriate, since we started it, that we should finish it. That said, who is your fly half for that match if you were the Springbok coach?
Handre Pollard start. And I wouldn't even necessarily assume, depending on the bench configuration, that Manie would be in the matchday squad at all. That's no slight on Manie, because it might mean that the next time we play in Dublin or in Paris, maybe Manie starts. There's some horses for courses in my mind. But against this particular foe, in the particular place we're going, it's designed for Handre. He's freely admitted that he has the same doubts everyone else does, but he lets them in his mind, and then he goes, after he thinks, what if we lose, or what if I stuff this up, he also thinks, but what if we win? And I like that mental fortitude, and I think that's what you need to go into a fortress. By the way, I like Rassie's view on that whole thing, which is there's lots of historic things being broken right now. Look at Argentina beating the All Blacks for the first time in Argentina. Look at what Wallabies did at altitude. Maybe we just kind of toss that out and tell the guys, it's just a rugby pitch. It happens to be located in Auckland, but it's not that different from Wellington, where we tend to win. So, I think that's the way to go about it. I think there's a way to put the All Blacks under pressure, and that way is more aligned with what Pollard brings to the table. Argentina really brought 3 big loose forwards, and they took their goals. They applied scoreboard pressure, and even at 13-all at halftime, you could feel that the All Blacks were not having any of their customary swag. And I think they are a particularly emotional team. This version of the All Blacks, as contrasted to prior All Blacks that were more battle-hardened and sort of welcomed pressure. I think this side likes to be ahead. I call them the best 1-hour team in the world. They wilt at the end. So, hell, we look like the best 20-minute team in the world right now, so I'm not bragging. The Boks have to pull their socks up too. But I think there's a way to play big ball at the loose, a big 8, smash, hold, tight, constrain, constrict, let the poison work, and then finally convince a ref to give us a scrum penalty or 2 in the second half.
That'll be great. Constrict. That's the key word for me. I love it. Final question then for you, Harry, because I think there is some irony here. We've been talking about Manie, we've been talking about Handre, but there is the serious chance that in the long term, both of them are overtaken by Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, he looks it. He has generational talent. Again, it'd probably be about being a good disciple, being a good student, being a good acolyte, sitting at the feet of a guy like Tony Brown, who's seen so much, learning from Handre, taking Manie aside for a coffee or a beer and just, learning as much as possible. Sacha strikes me as that kind of guy. A classic liberal arts and education at Bishops. Couldn't be more respectful, even with that oodles of talent. He can do all the tricks, I think, that Manie has done and will do, but I think he also has that other side as a statistician in his head, percentage guy like Handre. So we could be looking at one of the greats. That's not pumping him up. That's not counting chickens before they're hatched. It's just true that if you actually take the man, look at his statistics and his metrics and ability, whether it's first 3 steps, it's verticals, it's strength, the ability to play in contact, fearlessness, all of that. Sacha's good at all. So it's just going to be about the off-the-pitch stuff. How hard do you grind? How much do you want it? There's just a few guys that come along into Bokland where you look and say, wow, that guy, really, he has it all.
Harry Jones, thank you very much for your time. It was lovely having you on Front Row Rugby, and I hope that I can have you on again in the future.
Thanks, Peter. It was great.
And now it's over to you guys. Who is your preferred man in the Springbok number 10 jersey? Tell me why in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, may I also encourage you to sign up on my Patreon page. I would love to do this full-time, guys, and go to Australia and cover the Rugby World Cup in 2027 for you from down under with daily coverage. If you sign up, you can get your name mentioned in my videos. You can get discounts on my soon-to-be-launched merchandise store. You can stand a chance to win the new Springbok jersey that was released earlier this year. You can also stand a chance to win the soon-to-be-released James Small biography. You might also be able to have quarterly Zoom calls with me where we discuss Springbok players, matches and tactics, and you might even be able to get me to write an ebook for you on your favorite player. It starts from as little as $5 per month. That's US, not Zimbabwean. And if that sounds like something you want to be a part of, then head on over to my Patreon page and sign up right now. The link is in the description area below. And if you'd like a bit more info on exactly how it works, I made a video for you here detailing everything you might want to know. And if you're not yet ready to support me in that manner, you can also just crock roll the like button, and you can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And if you want to see an interview with perhaps the most famous Springbok fly half of them all, then here's an exclusive interview I did with 1995 Rugby World Cup champion Joel Stransky. See you next time.